Offenso South, Yao Opoku, Isaac Yao Opoku polled 473 votes, Desmond Chris Apia 43, and Ben Abdallah Banda, who is the incumbent, had only 166 votes. Ofori Krom Emmanuel Mafo 545, Emmanuel Yao Edua Mankwa 346. In Shiayeso, Kennedy Kwesi Kankam 315, that's the incumbent, and Stephen Amoa 332. And so in Shiayeso as well, the incumbents lost. In Suta Kwaman Beposo, Alhaji Kofi Baye 110, Kwame Asafweje 170, Adelaide Ya Ajewa in team 271. So Adelaide Ya in team won in the Insuta Kwaman Beposo constituency. Obuasi East, Enoch Anshere Afuakwa 158, Samuel Akwesi Owusu Bewa 68, and Patrick Boachi Yadom 256. Obuasi West, Kwame Ajiman Kwating, Kweku Ajiman Kwating rather, that's Kweku Kwating, the deputy minister, 383. Fosina Oponsafo 47, Godfred Benin 132. Odotobri constituency, Anthony May 305, Emmanuel Akwesi Jemfi 369. Old Tafo constituency, Vincent Ekwasefo Jr., he won that particular poll with 299 votes. Efija Kwabre was unopposed, Efija Secretary East unopposed, Ahafo North, Ashanti Achim North, and the Apia Kubi, that was a place that had the injunction. We were told some polls went on, and so the party would have to clarify. But if you go to Ashanti Achim South, Kweku Asante Boateng 300, Bice Oseko 4 296, Edmond Opon Pepra 9, Emmanuel Yamoa 32, Eric Amofa 8. Asante Achim Central, Kwame Anyimedu Enchi 251, Kofi Ofosun Kansa 210. More of the constituencies from the Ashanti region. In the Ejoso constituency, John Kumah had 397, Kwabna Owusu Edium, that's in the incumbent MP, 307, and Abna Pokia Boete had 5. Efijasia Sokore, Kwame Adoma Pia 68, Nana Ayu Efriye 332. Bosome Freho, Peter Ejay Ajiman 140, Akwesi Dakon Boateng 191, and Joyce Day had 76. Bantama constituency, Daniel Ochem Abuaje 122, Francis Asenso Boache 452. That's one of the constituencies that generated lots of controversy in the run-up to the elections, and the Deputy Chief of Staff, Francis Asenso Boache, won. Achimakwa Nguma, Nana Kweku Owusu Echampong 175, Kofia Mankwa Menu Upoku 415, Kojo Apia Kubi 69. When you go to the Jabin constituency, Amapoma Boateng 192, Alexander Oponpoku 184, Kumewu Robert Ahumkalinti 52, Philip Yaobano 60, Edward Kofiose 73, and Philip Basoa 184. In the Mampong constituency, Benjamin Arthur polled 206 votes, Kweku Amprechum Sapon 295, and Francis Adainimo 136. Menchia North constituency, Collins Owusu Mankwa 273, Akwesi Konedu 278. So that's another incumbent who lost. There was no election in Menchia South. Mansour Dubia, Kofi Osei Afuakwa 242, Adoyao Frimpong, 283. Manson Kwanta, Emmanuel Opomboachi Yadom, 48. Kwam Joseph Albert, 157. That's the incumbent MP. George Obeng, 217. Owusu Mensah, 40. And Grace Ado had 189. So in Manson Kwanta, George Obeng won that particular election. Looking at all these results from the Ashanti region, Bernard, that's where I would start with you from.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you, Abena. Thank you, colleagues. Happy to be here. Sunday afternoon, Father's Day.
And on Father's Day, happy Father's Day, though. And to Salom as well, to our boss, Samens, and all the amazing men we have.
I know you forgot the politics. Politics has a way of interrupting family
I know.
Things. So happy Father's Day to everybody. So I think my opening comments, I sort of disagree with Salom and Duke that this is surprising, and I'm going to be very controversial because there are 39 incumbents who have lost. It would be nice to show some of the pictures you mentioned because people need to see. I argue that this is not very surprising.
Okay.
If you look at our politics over the past 3 electoral cycles, and I'm going to prove it. Let me take you to June 13, 2015.
Bernard, before you do that, let's speak to one of the MPs who lost.
Okay, fine.
We've been joined on the telephone by the incumbent of Finso South Member of Parliament, Ben Abdelabanda. Good afternoon to you, Honorable.
Good afternoon.
We are glad you could join us this Sunday after you lost your election. But do you think the issues that happened before your elections, the executives who were suspended because of all the curses and everything, that played a role in you losing?
No, okay. Let me say hi to all your viewers and listeners, and thank you for having me on your show this afternoon. It may be a contributing factor because I haven't sat down to do any post-election analysis to determine the causes that led to my defeat. So it may be one of the contributing factors.
But aside that which you have identified, was it that you didn't do your work well as an MP?
As for what I did what I could, and I campaigned as it was expected of me, and my messages were also very powerful and very heart-touching. But you know, in elections, a lot of things do happen. Even the day before the election, even a day of the election, a lot of things do happen. So a lot of things did happen, including the cases that were invoked, and as well as some financial maneuvering. I believe these were some of the contributing factors that led to the defeat. But the fact of the matter is that it has already happened. I will say that this is a reflection of the will and the decision of the party people. So once they have spoken and determined who should be the next parliamentary candidate on the ticket of the NPP, so be it. I have to abide by that decision.
You talk about financial maneuvering. What exactly was that?
This is a phrase that I don't want to explain on your show, but probably an appropriate time when we meet. We'll have a lot more time to talk about it. So let's leave it at that.
Okay. Hello, Honorable.
Yes.
A lot of your colleagues, certain members of parliament, also lost yesterday's polls. What do you think accounted for this?
What I know, and I may be right or wrong, is that all the chairpersons of the various committees in Parliament lost. Dr. Sibe, including Dr. Sibe, and so on and so forth. One of the contributing factors is that because at all material terms we have to be in Parliament, work, and be able to deliver on the floor of Parliament, that to a large extent took away some of the time that we should have had in the constituency. I'm saying me, that may be one. And probably another reason that can be attributed to this maybe that, let me ask a question. Is it a reflection of the anger or frustration of the party faithful against the party that they visited on the incumbent members of Parliament? This is a rhetorical question that needs not to be answered. So that is it. Otherwise, I don't know why chairpersons of various committees of Parliament, who day in, day out work tirelessly and assiduously for the party and for the institution of Parliament, should lose the ability to go for another term. It comes as a surprise, but that, as I've said, is the decision of the party faithful. So we have to respect their decisions.
Thank you very much. The Honourable Ben Abdullah Banda is the current Member of Parliament for Offenso South. He lost yesterday's primaries and he thinks a number of factors contributed. Bernard, before you continue, he asked a rhetorical question, that is it that they are venting their anger on the central government, the incumbent MPs are having to pay for it?
That can be true, because if that was the case, why are the president's people winning? So for me, I think that we all know the structure of our politics. We know the role of money. And we know that if you have to be effective in Parliament to deliver your job, there's always a trade-off between discharge of parliamentary duty, focus on committee work, and also giving people what they want by showing up at every funeral, giving as much money as you can, paying for people's school fees, and being the people's MP. Which is why the issue of election of MMDCs comes in. So I think it's early days, so everybody will be saying different things. That's what I'm saying. Anybody who's studied a bit of Fourth Republican history of parliamentary elections will not be surprised at all.
Okay.
I mean, you can be surprised by certain races. So I won't sit here and say I knew the outcome of every race. At about 4, my predictions came wrong. But those predictions were based on assumptions. But I'm not surprised at all. In fact, if you are giving me the chance, I'll say that for me, I disagree with the initial point, Solomon. I'm going to be controversial.
Go ahead.
Look, in 13th June 2015, right? This is a week and a year ago today. We were discussing the same topic. We had about 25 big weeks of NPP losing primaries. Now let me compare the names who lost in 2015 to the names we have here today, and you tell me which is a bigger issue. Richard Anani, MP for Nshayenso constituency, got 110 votes against Kennedy Kankam in Nshayenso. Richard Anani was a 5-term MP, former Minister for Health, former Minister for Roads, very close to President Kufuor. A certain Kennedy Kankam beat him in June of 2015. Number 2, Simon Osei-Mensah, MP for Busom Chiefs, now the Ashanti Regional Minister. He was a 3-term MP. He lost to the person who's now the MP, who's the Educhum. 3, Dr. Ewusu Efiri Akoto, MP for Kwadaso, one of the people who wrote the manifesto of the Akufo-Addo government, key member of the government, Minister of Agric, MP for Kwadaso, Cambridge trained, had 98 votes against 139 from Vincent Frimpong Menu. You've never even heard of him. He lost in 2015. Efiri Akoto, he was a 2-term MP at the time. Honorable W.W. Boafo, W.O. Boafo, MP for Kropon. W.O. Boafo was a how many term MP? 3-term MP at the time. W.O. Boafo, 3-term MP, Eastern Region. Let me just check the figure. Yes, 3-term MP, MP for Kropon. He got 94 against Mami Dokuya's 294. Okay, I haven't finished though.
Continue.
Elizabeth Ajiman, MP for Forikrom. At the time, she was a 3-term MP. Elizabeth Ajiman, 237 One Dr. Emmanuel for 356. This is just 4 years ago, 2015. I haven't finished. Yeah, also bought MP for Asim Manso Crosso, was beaten by George Abuaje. I think it was a 2-term MP. Edward Enning, MP for Boise East, he lost. Gifty Eugenia Kusi, Western Region, MP for Takwa in Siayem. We know Gifty Eugenia. I've interviewed her, you know her work in Parliament. Gifty Eugenia Kusi. How many terms has she run? At least 3 NPP. I'll get it for you. Gifty Eugenia Kusi. 4-term MP. She and Joe Beduansa for Kwesi Mintin, Gifty Eugenia Kusi, Takwa in Siayem, a 4-term MP. Do you know who beat her? George Duka, the guy who now comes from Big Issue.
Yeah.
He had 453 votes. Gifty Kusi had 312. Isaac Osei, MP for Subing, one-time presidential material. Subing, how many? Isaac Osei was a second termer, former ambassador to UK, Cocobot CEO. Do you know who beat Isaac Osei? Eugene Boachi. Isaac Osei had 237, Eugene Boachi had 266. I haven't finished. Adainimo lost Mampong. Gifty Clenham lost to one a year Che Bafo. Clenham had 112. Che Bafo had almost 300. Joe Appiah lost to the lady who now Kwame Nabatel's daughter beat. Ba Ajimai, Asante Akim North lost. Kofi Frimpong, MP for Kwabre East. I mention this because you know them. Where's Kofi Frimpong? 3rd-term MP. Do you know who beat Kofi Frimpong?
Francis Kauti Benson.
Do you know how old she was? She was barely at voting age. Yeah. She defeated Kofi, and we were discussing this on Sisters. Hey, Kofi Frimpong, 3-term MP, articulate, charismatic, well respected across the aisle. Ask Richard Sky. Girl wasn't even 25. Finished Kofi Frimpong. Frank Boachi Ajay, if you just ask Okori, lost to Dr. Nene Free, who was at the time one of the rising stars. Actually, Manu be just south. Antonio Sebo actually lost. Tatali Sanguli, Cecilia, plenty. So for me, when I hear people, it's usually when there's an election. The story is that big wigs are falling. So yes, they are 39. This group was about 25. But I argue that, okay, let's compare the list. Look at the people who fell in Ashanti region compared to the names I mentioned. I've mentioned Kofi Frimpong. I've mentioned Richard Anani. I've mentioned Isaac Osei. I've mentioned Gifty, just Ashanti.
Yeah.
Now, I've mentioned Simon Osemensa. Look at the profile of Ashanti. Daniel Chama Boaji, 1-term.
1-term.
Owusu Eduemi, Deputy Road Minister, 3rd term. I concede. Collins Oso Amakwame Inshiano, how many terms has he done?
2.
Ben Abdallah is the biggest, in my view.
In the Ashanti region.
Which you interviewed 2 seconds ago. Kennedy can come in Shayeso. Kennedy just,
1-term.
He beat Anani. He's been beaten by Stika, same matter. Kwame Asafweje, Nsuta Kwamam Beposo. Joseph Albert Kwam, Manson Kwanta. Kojo Appiah Kubi, Achuma Kwahoma. A lot of people don't even know these guys. So for us to be arguing that, oh, Charlie, no, I think, yes, they are chairman of committees and things. But if you look at the character of people who lost 4 years ago in the NPP, right? Did somebody say at the time that there was a revolt against the party? Oh, I think we should just...
Okay.
For me, the fact that they are 39 is an interesting point. But my argument is that this is not any wild anything. They are... Look at Eastern region. What are the Eastern region names who have lost? Marcus Ibeboa, 2 terms. He's good in Parliament. Fine. He wasn't a minister. Kwetu had already been removed as a minister for a comment he made. Akim Oda. Seth Champon. Yes, I concede. Seth Champon, 3 terms. I got that wrong. I even said it was just Parliament. I'm talking about people who were NPP. What's the name of the word? NPP royalty. Isaac Osei, Owusu Akoto, Richard Anani, Kofi Frimpong, Elizabeth Ajiman, all scattered by people who are below age 40. So you can't say some wild something big and that people have lost. I completely disagree. I think it's normal. The only thing is that the numbers are more because now there's a bit of cynicism in our politics. People want money. If you don't give them money, they'll vote against you. They don't care who your father is. They don't care who you are. If you have 25 and you pay them, they'll vote. That's the issue. So I don't think there's some new development and like people are rebelling. No, I completely disagree.
On the list in Ashanti region.
Yes, I think Bernard is right largely, but again, these big ways you mentioned, the caliber of the people who lost in the previous election, a lot of them are gone. So talking about longevity and parliamentary experience, the Ananes and co were gone. But the situation could have been worse this time if the party did not employ the tactics of protecting people. So you have people like Osechi Mensabosu himself. We don't know. But before he got protected, there was a lot of talk and hue and cry about whether he was going to win or lose. So we don't know. If he hadn't been protected, the Daku guy, the young lawyer from Gimpa, could have caused an upset. We don't know. John Daku. Look at other names like Patricia PJ, went unopposed. I don't know whether it was she was deliberately protected or not, but a lot of them went unopposed. William Oreku Edu, Mavis in Kansa Bwedi, quite a number of them, Isaac Esiama, the sports minister, also went unopposed. All these people
as well.
Went unopposed. So these were people who perhaps, if they had been allowed to run, could have lost, and that would have added to the election. Was interference in terms of protecting certain untouchables. If that layer of protection had been removed, the situation would have been different, I bet you.
But then we are changing the argument now, because you see, we are the same people who have been saying that for the sake of parliamentary continuity, we need to look at committee chairmen who have lost. So Harun Idrisu and Chairman Sambosu came on my show in this studio. Yeah. First time I had them on show. We have to protect the continuity of parliament. We can't allow parliamentarians to be defeated. Okay. So on one hand we are saying 39 people have lost, so parliament is going to lose out. On the other hand we are saying, well, if we hadn't protected them, we would have lost more. So what are we really saying?
Okay.
Do you get our point?
Okay. Let me quickly speak to John Kumah. He won the primaries in the Ejuso constituency. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm greetings to my friends in the studio, Abena and everybody there.
John Kumah, you won at last.
Congratulations to you.
Kumah tired before.
Thank you.
What do you think worked for you yesterday?
I think, well, the grace of God and some little favor and luck. It was a very difficult battle, but I think that it was more of my regular touch with the grassroots, and then when I lost the last time, I kept a good relationship with them, and I continuously took part in the campaigning. I even became the electoral area coordinator for my town in Adifluonye. So regular consistency, constant touch with the states. I think all these things eventually work together. But most importantly, the message of hope and new direction for the Adiflu constituency, and making my programs and visions more clear to them. And I think eventually they accepted to vote for me.
What are we to expect from you? What are you going to do differently in the Ejuso constituency?
Well, the development agenda of Ejuso accelerated. I mean, a lot has been done, but we need to do a lot more, especially in areas of infrastructure, of roads. The youth are in the presence for jobs to be created. You know, we have the Bankang land port. We have Bonire, which is the center for Kinshasa, which is one of our national inheritance. That one of the heritage of Ghana that we need to protect and add value, and even through that create more jobs and opportunities for the youth in Ejuso. So we are going to put new ideas on the table. Of course, at the national level too, we are going to add the states in Parliament. We want to work hard to also to make sure we win 2020 and win massively. Especially, we need to increase the vote in Ejuso compared to what we got in the last 2016 election. So a lot of things on the table at the moment, and I think we are ready for the task ahead.
Topple the sitting MP, how do you intend to get his support and that of his other supporters going into the 2020 election, as you mentioned?
Yeah, I think he played a very important role. He served his constituency well for 12 years. In the area of roads, so I think he did his best. Lots done, so I'll have to work as much closely with him as possible to make sure that all the projects that he initiated are able to be completed and for new ones to also come on board. Of course, he has a wealth of experience, so I'm going to work with him and consult him as regularly as possible. We are all NPP. When I lost with him, I worked with him. So I'm sure once he has also lost, he will also cooperate and help to bring advancement to our community.
Thank you very much. Okay, and all right, he won the NPP primaries in the Ajuso constituency. He's the boss of the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation and Plan, NEIP. John Kumah, the Abena said John Kumah finally won. He's
been struggling.
Did you expect him to win?
It was one of the few fights I got right in my prediction that he was going to win. So, I mean, I have known him from university days, and he's lost close elections, whether it's SRC president at Legon or Nook's president or Manibuama or whatever place he's run. So, but he's always been near, and finally he's won. So good for him.
That's my father's constituency, so I look forward to seeing more action, as he said. But Duke, was he somebody you expected to see?
Yes,
when?
Yes. John Kumah has done a lot of work in the constituency. He has been able to get the youth to get jobs, which is, I mean, getting jobs is a problem across the country. So if you put yourself up for an election and you are able to satisfy the need of constituents, especially if it's a delegate election when the numbers are not that huge, and you are able to satisfy the needs of the delegates, it's easier to, marshal forces and get the numbers to push you ahead of an incumbent who's been there for some time and may be suffering from fatigue. But before we went for that interview, I concede to a certain extent to the point that Bernard has made. But just to add a little to it, that I think that the solution to all of these issues would be for a proper decentralization of our party politics across the board, so that if every member of the party who has a cardinal member of the party at every level can decide who the person to represent the party at an election, if you have that, we wouldn't have all of these problems of protect this person, don't protect that person, and all of that. I think that will be the solution to all of these problems.
Okay. Let's now go to the eastern region and look at some of the results we had. Abetifi was unopposed, Ebrem unopposed. Ebuakwa North, Gifty Chum Ampo for 150. Kofi Obein Mensah, 112. Nana Sewa Echampon, 35. K. Amwa Jr., 116. Ebuakwa South was unopposed. Samalata Chia went through. He was acclaimed. Achiase constituency, Robert Kwesiamwa, 127. Samuel Otredonko, 2. Emmanuel Kwabna Brako, 5. And Kofi Ahinkra Mafo, 186. Akim Oda, William Ejapon Kwetu, 169. Alexander Kwesiakwa, 215. Akim Swedro was unopposed. Ekuapem North, same. In Ekuapem South, Osei Bonsu Amwa, 266. Eric Samuel Ano, 74. Okay. In Prayeso, Seth Kwame Echampong, 104. Davis Ansa Opoku, 402.
I got this completely wrong.
You didn't think...
Yeah, but it's good because
Davis
you
could
can't
do much.
Well, look, you do your checks, you speak to people, you do all the assumptions you assume, but delegates know what they have in their head. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we got some wrong, we got some right. That makes us human. But Davis completely shocked. I'm sure even Seth is shocked because there are people in Davis's camp
And the margin.
who were not even sure he was going to do that well. But the truth is that when we did that prediction, Davis called and said, "You are wrong. You are wrong." He actually was watching the show. He says, "You have no idea what you're talking about." So yeah, it was not like a bet. He says, "I will win and it will surprise you." And he won handsomely.
You're clearly surprised.
No, but that's great because there are how many? 169 constituencies. I live in Accra. I can't know everything.
Yeah,
So I don't even.
That's
Don't forget, he used to work at what's it called? By working in some of their, how do I call it? These para-party organizations.
Yeah.
Let my vote count. Para. Yes. So that's also one way of cutting your teeth in organization, building networks with important people in the party. And Davis worked for Akufo-Addo long before he even started working for Kamneje Fong. So Davis and the likes of Herbert Krapper and co. So I'm happy for him. He's young. He's learned the art of politics. I always say that when it comes to politics, people say we need technocrats and experts. I think we need all kinds. We also need people who are career politicians. There's nothing wrong with that. We just don't want the politics to be dominated by only them. Because some of them, politics is their talent. Organizing people, speaking to people. It's part of the democracy. The only thing is that we don't want parliament to be full of people like that. Okay, but I think he's a young person who's learned the ropes of politics, and I wish him well.
New Jobbing North, Kwesi Boateng Eji 299, Samson Kwesi Ano 90. New Jobbing South, Mark Esibeyeboa 200, Michael Ochiribefi 372. Nkoko constituency, Eric Kwachi Dafo 159, that's the Eastern Regional Minister.
Yes.
Joyce Opoku Boateng 82, Joseph Frimpong 208, Kwabna Edusa Okechiri 28, David Boateng Asante 73, Seth Ejeba 156.
This one too.
This one
we
too.
got wrong, partly because the dynamics were too many. You have 6 candidates. That's a 6-way race. You have 2 former MPs, Shaba and Okechiri. Now you don't know, and Shaba had gone independent. Shaba is a businessman, so that's the second layer of confusion. Third layer of confusion is that there are 2 government appointees, Opoku Boateng, Middle Belt, then the regional minister. Then you have a Joseph Frimpong who has strong backers, who's younger. You get an argument. So it's so complicated. Our calculation was that it was a straight race between the minister and Joyce, because if you look at the media build-up, a lot of the time the minister reacted to things that Joyce Opoku Boateng said or did.
Yeah.
So in our view, the minister perceived it as the biggest threat, and she was going to use part of the allocation for the Middle Belt authorities, 1 constituency, 1 million, to rebuild the Nkoko Stadium, which will revamp Okwewu United. And the minister made sure that that point did not go across well. So in our minds, Joyce was the lead candidate just based on the minister's body language. And we also thought that because all these people, like the 2 former MPs, they've had their turn, and there's a young David Asante Boateng there, all these were going to affect the chances of Joyce. Little do you know that Seth Ajeba was still very popular, 156. He actually came third, and we don't even know whose votes he took, whether he took the minister's votes or whether he took
Joyce's votes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course the people backing Joseph, we have also heard that they are quite strong in other parts of the Eastern region, backing other people. So look, it tells you that the dynamics on the ground, when you look at the list of topics we put up, the local issues are also very important.
Yeah.
And even though Joseph Frimpong was known, we thought that because people felt that he wasn't a personally wealthy person. Don't forget Kwewu's business store. So that our calculation was that he was pushing resources into the thing. But the view was that they didn't know, for example, that he had his own series of shops. Shaba, we can tell where his shop is.
Sustain
so,
it.
And Shaba, and don't forget, in these places, what have you done for us? Okay, Shaba, have you set up shops? If you are Sickens, do you have a branch of the hotel in Kwewu? Because Kwewu's like going back to their place. So in all our calculation, we discounted Frimpong. But the feeling of what he was doing in terms of how he was making inroads with the delegates won the day for him. So we learn a lot every day about delegates and the way they think. I'm sure Duke has a couple.
As an activist and a teacher in the constituency, probably was able to play on his local knowledge of the people working, organizing them, as against the people who came bearing gifts and promises. And that's...
And I need to say something too, that the minister too had a few issues with some of the Christian leadership, religious leadership in the constituency as well. And some of that didn't bode well for him. So there are certain constituencies that if you have some sort of run-in or a fracas with certain identifiable groups, it can silently but quietly erode your chances. And I feel it affected his tenure as the minister and also his chances. We won't go into the details, but there are certain other things that happened on the ground that affected his maneuverability within the Christian community as well. So that's also part. But we've learned all of that in the past few days. So I think the primaries have taught us a lot of lessons around how voters think on the ground versus what is reported in the media, in the interviews they give. Very interesting.
We will go into the other constituencies, but for now, we can speak to the Honorable Seth Kwame Ampadu, the Prior Member of Parliament. Good afternoon to you, Honorable. Hello? Hello, Honorable Ampadu.
That's my prediction. I went on there to boldly say he was going to win.
Not
only did he lose,
we'll try
he
and
lost by a margin that made me look like a
margin more than the voting.
So 402
I'll ask him why
as compared to 104. I'll ask him that. I will try and reconnect to him. He's the Member of Parliament for Empire. So, but let me come to you, Selom, on the results we are seeing in the Eastern region.
Well, Eastern region, in Price was interesting. I mean, David Ansaupoku was my mate in school, and I know him very well. When
you didn't expect him to win?
Well, I wished him well. But
did he campus politics?
Yeah, he did some campus politics.
Okay.
I wanted him to win because that would be a friend. But when I heard he was running, I thought he was peaking ahead of time. I didn't know that he had done such great groundwork, especially going against a sitting member of parliament we know was influential, huge, very experienced, etc. But I think his backers were good. He understood, because every time when you speak to him, he's either on his way to Impraiso or coming from that side. I didn't know at the time that was what he was doing, and I think it's paid off. He's been very active on the ground with AFAG and speaking on issues, everything, proud to the NPP winning the election.
Selom, hold on to that. Let's try and reconnect to Honorable Seth Kwame Ampadu. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. From the people at Citi, Bernard Avle predicted that you were going to win the primaries.
And you disgrace me.
Only to find out after yesterday that you could only garner 104 votes. What happened?
This is an enterprise that is unpredictable. You would be assured, you will also know the assurance. But let me first and foremost thank Bernard and his team for the confidence based on the research they conducted. I certainly knew this is my fourth attempt. I have contested 3 terms. I have won my primaries in all 3 terms. And this was my 4th attempt. I was very confident it was going to go my way. But the results showed otherwise. I believe that a better competitor won the day. In competition, you go in with all your energies, with all your strategy and strength. But the one who is very well prepared for the contest wins the day. I congratulate my junior brother and fellow patriot, David Ansaupoku, for coming up to win this contest. This is the beauty of democracy, and that's what I believe in. I will not say that I've disgraced Bernard. I think the political party NPP won the day, and I'm glad because Davis, as an activist with pressure group AFAG and his stewardship under fellow patriots within the party, serving in the party, he deserves to be honored by the people. I think he's groomed himself well enough to carry on the mantle after us. And I was relatively younger when I first contested. I was full of energy. Maybe now, because I'm maturing and I'm having extra responsibility as well, my tactics and energies have gone down. But I still believe that it was a well-fought contest. I believe I did what I was supposed to do. Maybe the delegates believe that this is the time for me to bow and for another fresh blood to take over. They've given me the opportunity for 3 occasions to serve, spanning 12 years. It is no mean an achievement. I've seen the attrition rate in Parliament. I've been in Parliament since 7th January 2009. And this was my, like I said, my 4th attempt. And if I got only one, I'm hearing my voice from you for the first time. Because typical of this enterprise, my following are very down. They least expected such a humiliating defeat. But this is the reality. You just have to stand up to it as a human being. I have gone for several contests and I have won. How did the people I defeated take the defeat? They have to take it in good faith, and they still stayed on and worked for the political party. I take this in good faith as well as a patron, and will do everything I can in my powers to support the political tradition. It is the tradition I have decided to work for and work with, and that is all I will do. And I believe that the seed will still remain with the political tradition, and I know because this is a traditional seed.
All right. We are grateful you joined us. The Honorable Seth Kwame, Member of Parliament for Empire. So he lost, and he didn't expect such a humiliating margin in his own words. Sorry to disappoint you, Bernard. Let me go to Selom.
I wasn't rooting for him. I was just, based on the analysis, predicting that I was going to win. Because I know Davis also very well. So as I said, when I was even making the prediction, Davis took a video and said, "You are lying, I'm going to win." So this is nothing
done the
personal.
groundwork. Selom, so let's continue.
Yes, so I think I'd almost finished making that point. I mean, so I like how so far a lot of the candidates who have lost have spoken. You don't really see a situation where they come out openly accusing the other of doing one thing or the other. We've seen that in other races, but in this particular one, those instances have been very few. And I think it's kudos to them and also an indication that we are growing in this democratic enterprise. You go into an election with 2 outcomes, you either win or lose. And so if it happens that you lose, you take it in good faith, especially if you lost fairly. And I think it's kudos also to the party generally, because we've not seen a lot of people raise too many allegations about the fact that certain people were favored above others and this was done, etc. In fact, initially we had concerns about the album and so on and so forth. But at some point, those matters were leveled out and the field became quite even. So, yes, we've spoken enough about New Job and South Marcus Ibeyeboa and Michael Ochri Befi. Let's see what Befi has. He's been wanting to do this for a while now. Let's see what he has now. Ibeyeboa has demonstrated that given the opportunity, he's able to do what he's done. He was chairman of, or he's still chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee. He's done what he could do. Let's see what happens. I also like the way he spoke yesterday. He said Befi supported him when he beat him 4 years ago.
And
so he will also support him. And I think that is the spirit of democracy we must encourage across the board.
Other constituencies, Suhum Frederick Opariansa, 272, and Kojo Asante had 394. Did you see that one coming?
Not really. Opariansa He's done this for some time, four terms.
Yes.
Member of Parliament. He's beaten all sorts of competition, all sorts of people, And what made people think that this was going to be an easy contest for him is the fact that days leading up to the election, there was a town hall meeting which was organized by the young people in the constituency, and Kojo Asante failed to show up. I mean, he didn't show up, and because of that, the sentiments were against him. Sentiments were against Kojo Asante in favor of Opare Ansah. So to have Opare Ansah lose by more than 100 votes, it really tells about, it really reveals so much about how incumbency fatigue can set in. And as a politician, if you do not realize the signs on the wall quickly enough to decide whether you are taking another term or not, you could end up in this form of, I don't want to disgrace.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I want to say that, for me, I'm not, okay, sorry to make it look like I'm always opposing. I'm not very surprised because Opare Ansah is perceived, and I'm saying perceived.
Okay.
And this is not such a big thing now, but he's still perceived to be an Alan person.
Yeah.
That thing is still there. I think Suhum and New Job in South, those things also play the role. Because there's this perception that Befi is Nanado's guy, but Sibwe
Is an Alan guy.
or he's his own guy, he's an Alan, and particularly for the Opare Ansah, is seen as anti-Nanado in a way. So if you are look, if you study our elections, when somebody wins an election in a year, the first primaries after, his people, quote unquote, who were not MPs, come and take over. And there are a lot of people who are in parliament who were not his people who will be removed. Okay, it happened in NDC, to happen because, for example, if you look at 2013, of course, when Mills died, it's different because by the time Mills had died in 2012, NDC had already done their primaries. But some of the people who rose in Mohammed's government, some of his staffers and some of the key faces you saw were not that prominent under Mills, even though it's the same party. In fact, if Mills had died before the primaries were held and Mohammed had been president, you would have seen a lot more new faces in that parliament on the NDC side. It just happens like that. So, Akufo-Addo won in 2016. There are a lot of people who worked for him who may not have been in parliament. And there are a lot of people who are in parliament because of their affiliations with Kufuor. Because again, Kufuor was in power for 8 years. And he's built a base. The thing about our politics is that bases are built around personalities. The good thing about our politics is that it's not like other countries like Kenya where William Ruto can decide to leave the coalition and go and form his own party. In Ghana, if you try that, you are gone. The two parties are entrenched because there's a certain geopolitical division which has sort of accepted them as the main parties. But having said that, whoever leads the party, look, you can point to people in NDC who were the Mills people. A lot of them have become Mahama people now. Okay, a lot of people are Kufuor people, Akufo-Addo people.
No.
It happens because people build, the bases are built around the person and his trust and his relationships. Okay, so example, Okoboy. How did Okoboy become a minister? He was working in the Eastern region as the head of the hospital at Chebi. Okay, this is where the president is from. So I'm sure he interacted with him, saw a young, brilliant guy, and decided that this guy can do well. So he convinces him to go and run. He runs in the Jokuku and wins. He comes, he makes him deputy minister. It's the relationship. That's how our politics is. So a lot of people try and quickly move. So for example, if the thing changes from Mills to Mahama, you have to look sharp. But some people say, we are Mills in Kwa. Okay, so typical example, it's not good as Okoko and Irohu. Okay, NDC. He's a Mills guy. He's doing Mills Foundation, Mills guy. Yes, but a lot of people see him as, they know he's NDC guy, but he's like Mills, everything Mills. So a lot of people who were the Mills guys have moved to Mahama, and they are moving coolly, but some will remain. And I think some of the people, this happened to them. Okay, and Kufuor is still very influential in the NPP, but
for now,
if you are seen, there's nothing wrong being pro-Kufuor, but if you are seen as anti-Nanado, it's a problem. It's not the same thing. Right, you can be working for. But Alan worked for Kufuor, but Alan is working with Nanado and is not even showing any anti-Nanado here. But there are people who are perceived to be, which affects them on the ground. Because in Ghana, we like groupthink. So once Akufo-Addo is a guy, if you are not part, you are out. That's how we think. So we don't like dissent. So if everybody is going for Mahama and you alone, you are talking something, we leave you aside and we move on. which is very bad because it also means that you can't have rigorous discussion of issues from an objective perspective, because we all have an interest. We are on another people. So if another is failing, we can't tell him, because if he goes out of our, we won't get any food to eat. Do you get me? So you need that internal dynamic where it's not division, but you need a bit of space for people to speak their mind. But in Ghana, our party doesn't really tolerate that, which is why you're seeing, in fact, when Richard Anani fell to Kennedy Kankam, a lot of people said, it shows that the last vestiges of the anti-Nanado coup has fallen.
They are out, yeah.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. So, which is why a lot of people thought that Stika shouldn't have even gone against Kennedy Kankam, because Kankam defeated Nanado's nemesis in the Ashanti region, and he hasn't given any position. So why is Stephen Amar going against him? Because what Kennedy Kankam did, 5-time MP, and you beat him handsomely. So that's the way our politics is. So some of these people who fell may have suffered from that thing, which contributed to their defeat.
Salam.
Yeah, exactly the point. Freddie Opare-Ansah, since the 2007-2008 times, has been trying, he found it very difficult in winning those primaries. At the time, Brian Champon was his competitor in Suhum. They ran a number of times, before he eventually won. That was when Kufuor was leaving the scene and Nanaado was coming. Fred was seen as a Kufuor guy. Fast forward, Nanaado comes in, or Nanaado becomes a leader of the party. He went a bit quiet. Before that, he was Deputy Minister for Communications also, very prominent before, and one of the rising stars in the party at the time. He was young. Now, when Nanaado took over the reins of the party, his prominence reduced for obvious reasons, because he was seen as a pro-Kufuor guy or maybe an anti-Nanaado guy. Whether that is true or not is another discussion. So in 2017, if you recall, there was some embarrassment caused Ghana's delegation to the ECOWAS Parliament, because he was a member of the Parliament, that Parliament in the previous term. And when the NPP won the election in 2016, Osei Sabosu, as majority leader, decided to reconstitute the delegation to ECOWAS Parliament from Ghana, because Sheda Ekobochwe and Dambochwe Eko had become ministers, and by the protocols, you couldn't be minister and be part of that parliament. And in reconstituting it, his name was taken out. Afenyu and a few others were added, but he went. And so when I heard the Ghanaian delegation was being introduced or something, they were more than the number. They were 9, while they were supposed to have been 8. And that caused quite some embarrassment. So I understand the Speaker of that House had to let them go and then sort it out among themselves, which wasn't very nice. Afenyu eventually decided to step down, though he was not in contention. Said, okay, he wouldn't want to be part of this. He would step down for him to come. So it's appeared generally as somebody who has been fighting for relevance and fighting for breathing space even in the party. And so it's not so surprising that eventually, he's lost this. I really hope that he will help the Kojo Asante guy, so they can retain the seats, as it were.
Just to add to that, just briefly. There's a certain floor in Parliament, the 10th floor, where it's perceived that all the persons who are on that floor have a certain affiliation that is anti the president. Okay. And at this point, most of them.
The 10th floor has been cleared.
Most of them have. No, most of them.
The 10th floor.
Most of them have.
But how was that arrangement made, though?
Most of all, as to borrow from Bernard. These are a group of men who are very well. They bond together very well. And so most of it translates to even the office space and who is close to who on that floor. So most of them are there. Dr. Sibeyeboa is on that floor. Dr. Chumyama, Health Committee, who's also lost his seat.
Into his constituency.
And a couple of others are all on that.
And all
also on that floor.
All the 3 of them went to Presec. That's the sad part of this. Opare-Ansah, Sibeyeboa, Chumyama all went to my.
If you just joined us, this is our continuous coverage of the NPP's parliamentary primaries yesterday on your election center, Citi FM, Citi TV. My name is Abena. I'm here with Bernard, Duke, and Selom. We're going through the regions and looking at the results, what may have accounted for someone winning or losing. Now to the Bono region. I'm starting with Brekum East. Dr. Kwabnachum Nyama, 233. Nelson Chereme, 286. Paul Oforia Manfo, 2. Solomon Chiret Buedu, 10. And so the results are quite clear there. The incumbents lost. Brekum West was unopposed. Doma East, William Kwesi Sabi, 153. Paul Aprekuchum Berima, 225. Kwabna Safo Kantanka, 31. Doma West was unopposed. German North was also unopposed.
Siaka Stevens.
Yes.
He's never going anywhere. German North.
German North, Siaka Stevens. German South, Yao Afo, 324. Prince Yeboah Mafo, 241. Alex Kwesiewua, 81. So Yao Afo won the election in German South. Sunyai East, Kwesia Meyao Chereme, 564. Alfred Tua Yeboah, 227. Sunyai West was unopposed. Ignatius Bafwe West constituency. Tyne constituency, Gabriel Osei, 345. Alex Ofori, 110. Abebio Alexander, 192. Wenchi constituency, Professor George Jan Bafo, 172. Ameyao Albert, 167. Kojo Frimpong, 148. Yao Opoku Echiahene, 19. Tina Abrifa Jan, 61. So that's the Bono region's picture.
That's your home region.
Duke, you have to start.
Well, it's not surprising, not really surprising because the only casualty is Dr. Chumnyama.
Dr. Chumnyama.
Dr. Chumnyama suffered from incumbency fatigue. He's been there for quite some time, since the constituency was split since the constituency was split in 2009. Was Nkrabie Fadate was split, and
became
the
Brekum East
deputy
and the
minister
West.
for railways currently, Kukwa Jenim Boateng, took the west part, and then he became MP for the Brekum East part. He's been there for three terms up until now, and the anti-party, anti-Akufo-Addo sentiments also against him affected him. So they've been looking for a fresh face for quite some time now. And for Nelson Kweku Chereme, who's been very active in the constituency for some time now, wanting to give a lot of expression to his ambition, this is a very good opportunity for him, and he's been able to topple him. For Sunyani East, it looked from the beginning like it was going to be a difficult one, because Alfred Chiayeboah is the secretary of the Regional Bar Association. He's contested a couple of times, contested in German North, which is Dobu, where Siaka Stevens, yes. He tried a couple of times, he did not win, decided to contest in Sunyani, and it looks like a lot was going on for him until the election day, the D-Day, where there were unverified reports. So unverified reports about some intimidation. I may not be able to substantiate that allegation, so I'll leave that. But at the end of the day, he showed his mettle. Kwesiami Acheme showed his mettle as an experienced politician. He's the MP who took over from J.H. Mensah in 2008 and has been able to hold the constituency for more than 3 terms, and he is majority chief whip. So, not apart from Dr. Chumnyama, not so many surprises in the Bono region. Yes.
Bernard, is it the same for you?
Oh yes, I think that the Bono region. Don't forget, because the region has been split, the way we used to perceive BA has to change a bit, because Bono region is now the sort of the largest part in terms of numbers, but there's also Ahafo, which is very Ashanti in character, and then there's Bono East, which has a lot of mixed numbers. So you notice that a lot of the NPP seats are in Bono proper. If you move to Bono East itself, some of them are NDC, and Ahafo is also a bit of NDC as well in terms of the national picture. I interviewed Chumnyama on the point of view, health committee. He seems to know his stuff, but he's quite calm. And so I was wondering how he had made it 3 times. You notice that in the regions, having a certain stature as a doctor and a surgeon and being there for people is more. So you don't need to be a media hothead who talks loudly to be liked in your constituency, right? Because he's a very calm person. And obviously, the health committee is an important committee. I was wondering why he wasn't one of the deputies for health.
He same anti
perceived anti-Akufo-Addo factor.
That's interesting because I mean, if you have a doctor who's a public health physician, who's the head of your health committee, is a 3-term MP in Parliament. I mean, I have nothing against Tina Mensah. Okay, and I know that appointments are based on different things, but you think that, so that was the first alarm bell that rang that, oh, if the president wants, and Chum is the senior to Okoboy. Okoboy is my junior in Presec. This Chum was in A-level when we were in Form 1. Okay, Brian Champions group. So he's obviously senior in medicine and also senior in politics. But I think your closeness to the center is the issue. Yeah. And this is really something we need to think about, the way our politics works. It's not really how good you are. All right, it's how, and that's the reality of the situation. It's not a meritocracy, because you also have to have a regional balance of some kind. And yes, somebody can have a PhD in surgery. That doesn't mean you'll be a good administrator. Yeah. Okay, so it really depends on a lot of things. So no real surprises in Bono region for me.
Salom.
Well, no real surprises as well. Only that
I need to say something quickly. Okay. There was a real issue with Sunyani West, but the gentleman was disqualified and he's been disowned in a way. I even saw a statement. There's this young Bernard guy who's presiding member for Sunyani West, really trying to build his political profile. He's this US fellow.
Yes,
Mandela. He's young and he's been on Citi for a few times. The trouble is that if you are going against somebody like Inaso Bafwewa, who is the Minister for Employment, one of the president's key Bono people in government, you need to be very tactical. And his remonstrations led him to be disqualified. Yes. And he risks being ostracized by the party. Some would have thought if he had been allowed to go, as Salom would say, we don't know what would have happened. You see, a lot of these ministers, the casualties of 2015 didn't happen to them because we didn't allow people to challenge them. Because the way politics is working now, if somebody has money and he's always in the constituency and he's an area boy, he can beat you because you're always in Accra doing TUC and things. So the party, I don't know how the party did it. If all those contests had been allowed, because if you look at some of the basis for the disqualifications, I mean, if they say you haven't nurtured the party, is the party a baby to be nurtured? That asterisk there, that some of the people who went unopposed, there's an asterisk because if they had been challenged, as Salom said, we may be having a different discussion this morning.
And he's threatening to go independent. We hope he doesn't become. I mean, going independent could mean a lot for his future in the party. It could mean that he would be what's the word? He could be ostracized, ostracized from the party, and I don't know. Probably maybe a Ninoy may be on the cards if you look at it.
Well, it also depends on how good and how much grounded the employment minister is. My only comment on the Bono East, is it Bono East?
Bono.
On the Bono region is from Doma East. Also because I know the gentleman, William, the Deputy Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation. In fact, initially there was some poll that put the guy who was last, Kobna Safo Kantanka, on top. And it's interesting how the votes made nonsense of that poll. I don't know what might have happened, but I really wish he made it. He couldn't make it. He's a strong guy when it comes to monitoring and evaluation, and he was one of the key people that the NHI, he used to work with NHI, that the NHI started with. Okay. And he was head of operations at some point. And I thought that his understanding of that and contributions he's made on the health committee would have been useful. But again, the politics on the ground, very different. He served 2 terms. I think that people think it's time for a new person, Paul Apreku Chum Berema, to come in. And so the people spoke, and they spoke quite resoundingly.
Okay.
resoundingly.
Let's move away from the Bono area and go to the central region. Abra Asebu Kwamankese, Elvis Morris Donko 468, Kobna Nyante 207.
Nyante the suffer.
Aguna West, Cynthia Morrison 584, Samuel Kweku Obodai 171, Yosin Otu 23, Esikuma Odobimbrakwa Anthony Efa 197, NX Kojo Smith 8, Samuel Oforian Puma 153, Bright Esilfi Kumi 10, Banasco F. Amponsa 21, and Emmanuel Ej Domson 245. Of course, Asin Central was unopposed. Kennedy Ohene Japan. Asin North, Abna Joa Mensa 388, Amankwa Blay Eric 44, and Emmanuel Enchibua Siakon 6. Asin South was also unopposed. John Ntim Fojo, Awutu Senya West, George Anda 438, Joseph Edu 191. Awutu Senya East unopposed. She's also a minister.
Maybe it's how I come.
Yes. Cape Coast North, Barbara Aisha Aisi 199, Samuel Philip London 26, Joseph Thomas Beidou 63, Lawrence Ampa 150. Efutu Afenyomakin was unopposed, Ekumfi unopposed, Gomwa Central, Atukujo, Gomwa Central.
I think he's the Deputy Minister for Fisheries.
Yes.
Nana Eya was also unopposed, Gomwa East, Kojo Asemenyi was unopposed, Gomwa West, Alexander Kojokum Aban 525, Kojo Abbas Aqua 192, Hemad Lower Denchira, Nana Kwame Yamwa Hagan 123, Honorable Bright Rekobrobe, the Deputy Employment Minister 267, Infantiman Constituency Eko Hayford 611, James Corsa Brown 255, Chifo Atimokwa Constituency Ebenezer Obenjamina 206, Francis Owusu Mensah 180, Abraham Juma Odum 119, Apa Kofi 279, Nana Amuako 243, Richmond Dodu 51, and Charles Afari-Mensah 15. So those are the results from the central region. And I start with Selom on this.
Well, Asebu, Abura Asebu
Kwamankese,
not surprising that the incumbent maintained or retained his candidature, if you like. And for me, what is interesting is going into election 2020. This is the constituency that Felix Ofosu-Kwakye will also be contesting in. And for me, it's a straight fight between the two of them, as will be expected. This has been an NDC seat most of the time. And I think apart from last time, the last election, there was one other time that the NPP won. And so I think it's good that Elvis has been retained so that, you know, because Felix, though he's not contested to be in Parliament before, comes across as a very strong candidate, very young, very articulate, and appears to know his stuff. So it will be a very interesting race between Elvis and Felix, and it's good he's been retained so that the other person wouldn't have to be marketed, etc. Because Felix appears to be on the ground already. Right. And in fact, one of the key things he has been saying is that given the fact that the Ebura Asebu Kwamankese constituency has been voting NDC for a long time, the fact that the constituency is not even known so much on the national political map says a lot about the people who have represented the constituency.
He's just selling himself.
Of course. And indeed, I mean, if he, because given what he knows and what he does, if he is to become the MP, you can be sure that he will actually make a lot of noise to put that constituency on the map. If it's noise,
Nyante is no. It's just that he's been trying for a while to.
I mean, it essentially means it's not so popular.
No, you know the way it is. You nurture it, and your time will come once. But I agree with your point that Elvis, being the incumbent, stands a better chance than Kobina at this point. Cynthia Morrison had a contest and she won very well. I think actually it's to the credit of some of these ministers that the contest happened and they won.
And they win, yeah.
George Anda, fantastic. Look at it. He ran against Joseph Edu, 438, 191, resounding. He's still the favorite. Cynthia Morrison, 584. The other two didn't even get 200. Tells you that they are popular on the ground. So sometimes allowing a contest just re-emphasizes your dominance on the ground. So a lot of them who didn't have contests, they don't even know how the ground is.
Yeah.
If somebody comes up with a lot of resources, they can finish you next time round. I want to comment on Isikuma. The winner, I know because I followed his politics since Legon days. Ajay Domson, he was SRC president of Legon. He ran against Paul Adomatri. He was from Legon Hopo, from Commonwealth. So one of the epic campus campaigns. Before then, he went straight into politics, worked in Isikuma, he's been MCA before. He's really been committed to Isikuma Odobin Brakwa. We call him Domi, Ajay Domson. Anybody who went to Legon between 1998 to 2002 will know Ajay Domson. They call him Domi. He was very popular on campus. Domi, oh, Domi, Domi, oh, Domi, he won. So, and like John Kumah, he's going to get his chance now. So, and the other point in it is that political people, they nurture their ambition. Right, so he left campus, went to work at the assembly, done all kinds of things. Eventually, he's going to now run on the ticket of the NPP. He won reasonably well, 247 to 197, 245. That's not that much of a gap. There were 7 or 6 contestants. So, I mean, I wish him well, but it's just an interesting point that somebody who's been trying this long finally managed to get in.
Duke, looking at the list. As Bernard mentioned, the main Brack. Okay.
Sorry, Cape Coast North. I want to make a quick point on Cape Coast North. I'm surprised that Barbara, you see, they allowed all these people to contest, and I'm not saying they should protect people, but you see, she's the former deputy minister for education. And now a deputy for another minister.
Works in housing.
I know that there are other deputy ministers who tried and contemplated running for Cape Coast North, but when they went to the ground, they realized that it wasn't good. That Barbara was going to win. I thought for affirmative action's sake, there's nothing wrong with the NPP saying that all our first-time women MPs, we want them to go so that they can develop some experience, so we can encourage other women to go in. Because the playing field is not level. So if somebody is a deputy minister, she won well in the first election. I understand that democracy is to allow everybody to challenge, but you need to protect some of your women. Okay, Cynthia Morrison and Barbara Isi. But they all had contests. She's won to prove that she's strong, which is good. But I think that some of the parties should think about that type of offensive because you have a woman who's taught for many years, now going into politics, the rough and tumble. She's managed to win. We need to encourage others because if we get more women in parliament, I think that the conversation will even change.
And so in protecting some of the MPs, it should be women, first-time MPs.
If I had my way, I would have said
prioritized.
Female MPs should not be contested unless it's a woman who's contesting against them.
Okay.
Do you get me? Unless if another woman who's coming, because you want to keep that minimum of 20-something MPs and add to it. So you can say NDC MPP, okay, any woman who is MP, anybody who wants to contest should be a woman.
Okay.
It's not fair, but the world is not fair. We've already created a place where we are so much disadvantaged for the women. But congratulations to her, she won. So that's...
Duke, so in that region, Chifuati Mokwa, Apadinchua East, Isikuma Odobin Brakwa, all these MPs are out.
There are MPs who are not able to hold their own in Parliament.
Okay.
They were not able to hold their own in Parliament. So there are people that you can't make a case for. You can't make a case for as people that you would take them out to be protected, or people who should be shielded from competition. So it then stands. I mean, it then stands to reason that if you are not discharging your representative function very well, if you are not heard on the floor of Parliament, if you are not doing your work as you ought to do it, and yet you can't cultivate the needed capital, social capital in your constituency to win,
that's a problem.
It's a huge It's a huge problem. To add a little, just a little bit of a point to what Bernard said about the women participation. It will be great. It will be great to have that. Maybe the NPP needs to revisit that conversation. In the run-up to the 2016 election, there was a conversation of that sort where the flag bearer indicated at that point in time that almost all the women who were contesting should not have competition. But the party decided against that. Maybe it's time once again for that discussion to be had. And if it's a discussion that's going to be had, it should be had across all political parties to boost women participation in parliament.
Let me go through the list.
Yes, let me a quick comment on Chufu Ati Mokwa. I think Chufu Ati Mokwa. You know, this was, I think, one of the first times, or the very first time the MPP won that seat. And it's quite disappointing that Abraham Juma Odum, who did so well to annex the seat from the NDC for the MPP, could not really hold his own. I think it was a 3-horse race, because when you look at the results, the winner got 206, the second got 180, and he got 119. Wow. I was thinking that because it's an NDC seat traditionally, he would have worked very hard to maintain the position so that his popularity, he will consolidate his popularity on the ground. That is, if he's done some good work to garner that popularity. So, given that it's a traditional NDC seat, it will be interesting to see how this will play out. I don't know much about Ebenezer or Ben Jomna, but I think he should have that in mind and know that the 2016 election was just a one-off, because traditionally they hadn't won.
So, an interesting quick point there. That's an interesting point. See, usually when a party wins a seat that it doesn't traditionally win, you have to allow a contest. Okay. Because if you impose or you emasculate people, then the likelihood of division.
No, I wasn't talking about he being protected.
Yeah, I'm just adding to your point. I'm just that because the seat traditionally belongs to NDC, or NDC has been doing well and you won it, the party NPP has to allow for a contest so that the most popular person wins. Immediately they begin to do any machination, they would then run the risk of having disgruntled people either go independent or stay away.
But for somebody who has won before,
it doesn't matter. So he's won. So the party needs to now entrench democracy on their side. So the most popular person on their side always goes. Maybe he's won, but he's not done a good job. Maybe people don't like him.
Okay.
So, but if you say he's won one, so let's keep him again. People say, well, this guy's not doing anything. So let's go back to the one we know.
So it was disappointing that, I mean, per the results, it clearly means he didn't do a good job. I mean, the fact that he won the first time, I would have expected that he would do his homework well, build his social capital well, know who the key decision makers are in the constituency, and get a lot of them on his side. That clearly did not happen. Now, my take on the woman thing, affirmative action, or however you call it. You see, the president may think something. Of course, they tried doing that. The president may think something, but the party is on the ground. The party knows what will make them keep the power. So the president wanted to be nice, wanted to do what was right, and perhaps, so the women should be protected.
Okay.
But the party, knowing that when you introduce that may cause division in the party in those constituencies, decided against that. And for good reason, because they want to keep the seat. So if there are people who have been preparing for some time to give a contest to the incumbent lady, and you all of a sudden tell them that because of so and so reason, you want to keep, just for the fact that you want to keep women and have a huge women participation or representation in parliament, you cannot contest. It puts their ambition in abeyance, so it puts their ambition on hold, and a lot of people will not be happy. And if these guys are influential, there's a way they can work against that candidate to lose, so that next time it's not a party seat. Now everybody can contest.
All right, let's go to the Greater Accra region now. Ablekuma Central, Ebenezer Gilbert Nina Nate, 851. Paul Lamte, 152. Ablekuma North, Nanekyo Usuefriye, 315. John Kojo Akpote, 20. Kwejo Poku Eje Bewa, 88. Sheila Battels, 518. Ablekuma West Eslo Usu unopposed. Adentan Emmanuel Kwesimante, 217. Yawabea Samoa, 422. Frida Ajiman Sapon, 7. Alfred Abebiokumi, 10. Anya Sotium, Dixon Adjomako Kisi, 324. Nana Masafo Boache, 2. Edna Patricia Saki, 3. Emmanuel Tobin, 209. Emmanuel Lamte 294. Ayawaso Central, Henry Kote unopposed. Botiano Englishi, Sylvester Tete 317. George Ado Oseiwari 6. Gifty Mensa 0. Frederick Annan 36.
But did she vote?
That's quite surprising. Maybe he's not a delegate.
Not all of them were delegates.
Oh, if she's not a delegate, she cannot vote. Yes. Habib Said 178. Dom Kwabenya constituency. Michael Okwe Jr. 488. Sarah Adjoasafo 496.
Wow.
Crowell constituency. Elizabeth Afolekwe 362. Eric Okine 1. Emmanuel Laye Odai 359. La Dadekotopon Vincent So Dote 375. Joseph Gerald Tete Nyanyofio 543. Comfort Ej Korte 46. Lajakuku Dr. Bernard Okoboy was unopposed. Same for Madina Abubakar Sadiq Boniface. Okaikwe South Ahmed Arthur 327. Dakua Newman 440. Nana Fredi Ajimano Foriata 21. Okaikwe Central unopposed. Okaikwe North Husseini Isa 305. Kenneth Kwanche 285. Tema Central Hansen Norte 187. Ajiman Prempe Ramzia 0.
Hey. 0. No, we are just surprised.
Somebody scoring a stop.
Okay.
Kofi Brako 158. Charles Forson 150.
Oh, at least, Charlie.
Tema East, Daniel Nee, Titus Glover 522. Benjamin Ashite Ama 233. Tema West, Carlos Ahenkra 593. Keku Amuzwa, I hope I got the name right, forgive me, 76. Kweku Poku Busumpem 177. Kwesi Poku Busumpem 177. Trouble unopposed, Moses Enin. Wejak Bawe, Tina Mensah was also unopposed.
Wow.
So
Greater Accra.
Those are the results from the Greater Accra region. I'll start with you, Bernard. All the O's,
So my
zeros.
My main comment on Greater Accra is the split between new winners, like so there are new people winning, and then the old people who are maintaining their seats, apart from Babenya Samoa and Ninai and Titus Glover, it was close. So apart from the 3 constituencies I mentioned, the incumbents had to struggle. So Ablekuma Central, Ebenezer Nina, 851. That was fantastic. Adenta, Babia Sama, 422, Emmanuel Kwesi Mante, 217. So Babin, if you put everybody else together, it's almost double everybody. So that's resounding. Then Tema East, and then Tema West. Clearly. And Carlos was not surprising at all. But Titus Glover keeps... what's the word to use? He keeps defying his detractors. He has 9 lives. Honestly, for a politician, Titus Glover is amazing because this person he was going against was very connected to some aspects of the party hierarchy in Tema.
Okay.
Anybody called Ashite from that part of Tema is strong. So Titus Glover not only winning by more than double, 522, 233, about double. And after all his travails with Kempis and all that, he's done very well because, as I said, the Tema East constituency is the one that NDC eyes closer. Tema constituencies are 3. Tema Central, NPP wins by 70%, 69%. Tema West as well. Tema East is always very close, although in 2016, Titus opened the gap because Tema East has a lot of the fisher folk. And usually the coastal communities tend to behave the same way, from Ododo, from Nleshi, Amanfro, all the way to Ada. They have sometimes they vote the same way. So in 2000 they booted out the NDC. 2008 they booted out the NPP. So if they jigger, they can do what they want. They do it the same. I don't know whether they have conferences or meetings. So apart from the 4 I've mentioned, which is Ablekuma Central, and then Tema East and West and Adenta. All the incumbents who won by very close margins. Okay, so look at Hussein Issa, Okankwe North. Ken Kranchi gave him a good run for his money. It was less than 25 votes. Okay, Hussein Issa 305, Ken Kranchi 285. So actually, 20 votes. Domi Kabenya, Mike Okwe 488, Adwa Asafo 496. Very close. All right, which begs the question: those who went unopposed, had they not gone, what would have happened? We don't know. So that's the second observation, that some of the incumbents who maintained their seat, Krowo, Elizabeth Afole Saki 362, Emmanuel Layo died 359, 3 votes, and this is a minister. Okay, so look, if the Greater Accra is interesting, then look at Botiano. Sylvester is not in a new phase. He was in Ningo Pram. Look at the way he won. 317 against the incumbent, 178. So, and Sly is the National Youth Authority CEO. For a government, whoever you make your National Youth Authority CEO should be one of your rising stars on the youth side. And Sly has that stature in the NPP. He's respected, he's liked. So, I'm not surprised at all. I think they realized that Ningo Pram doesn't really treat NPP well. And this Botiano, 12 years ago, the Minister of Foreign Affairs now,
Shirley,
she had the largest constituency in Ghana. At the time, it had Botiano, Inglesia Manfro, and Anyaso Otum, and then Bawe together. It was split into 3. The Anyaso Otum and Weja Bawe parts, you can call it gerrymandering, are still decidedly MPP. The Botiano side voted NDC because it's coastal and it's more to the south. So it's strategic for MPP to want to use somebody they respect and like to test to see if they can beat. This was by the Moji's constituency before Habib came to beat him. So it's a very interesting thing we are seeing in Greater Accra. And then, of course, some of the big guys who are falling. Vincent Soda, nobody should be surprised by that. If you look at the readings on the wall, seems to have fallen out of favor with the presidency. We don't know why. And then Ahmed Arthur as well, not that close to the center. We got that prediction wrong. We thought what's his name? Nana Fredia was going to affect Dakwa. She did not. So you have seen incumbents, apart from 4 incumbents winning well, all the incumbents had a tight margin, and then the rest of them were defeated. So there seems to be a lot of resources to contest incumbents in Accra. And possibly because Accra, most of the businesses are here, so it's easier to raise money to contest than it is to do in some part of the rural communities. This is my view, because I think it's still a money issue.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money available to floor you if you mess around, which is why a lot of these guys have lost. Look at the number of incumbents who lost in Accra, quite sizable as well. So those are my comments on Greater Accra.
Then for a place like Abena Nyamekye, I'm imagining the amount of finances that went into that campaign based on what Bernard is saying.
Yeah, it was, I mean, some captioned it, Aboboya versus Nikanika. I don't know how to, maybe probably to bring to bear or to bring into expression the kind of influence of money that went down in that constituency. It was close, very, very, very close. Looking at the numbers, but I think that Adwa Asafo has been able to leverage on the kind of historical, the nature of the historical settlement and the demographics in the area. Most of the people there are originally attend Christo Asafo.
Her father's church.
That's Taifa.
That's Taifa.
Taifa part of the constituency.
Taifa part of the constituency. And looking at the fact that this is a delegate election, for someone who has been able to win that constituency on two occasions, she would probably have a lot of the delegates on her side. But Michael Kwe has done very well. This is his second attempt with all the power and the backing as a High Commissioner to India. He's gotten close. Probably the next time, if he should try again in 4 years' time, he could get the needed votes to beat Adwa Asafo.
Salam, Greater Accra.
Yes, interesting. Well, my comments will be on Abele Kumah North, Dome, Ladadiko Tupa, Kankwe North. In terms of, let me start with Dome Kwabenya. Dome Kwabenya was interesting. I thought that Michael Kwe Jr. did quite well. To beat Adu Asafo with just 8 votes, I thought that was huge.
To lose to
Adu Asafo by just 8 votes, I thought that was huge. Because one, Adu Asafo is incumbent. She's a minister of state. She's a deputy majority leader in parliament. This gentleman, Michael Kwe, hasn't been in Ghana. He was in India as the High Commissioner of the place, etc. I was just thinking yesterday, what would have happened if he hadn't come to Ghana earlier before they closed the borders? So he'd have been campaigning in India, wanting to win the election in Ghana. Of course, it's happened before. I think Musa Superior in the last election, won the primaries whilst he was outside the country. He used technology, etc. to win. That would have been interesting to see. But given the support, the kind of support I just have got from her, contemporaries in parliament, or Sechi Mensah and could go in there to help her. We heard days before Kennedy Japan himself to go there to assist. Esla Owusu yesterday was there to give her the assistance. If you put all these things together, and the fact that she won by just 8 votes, I think Michael Kwe did a very good job. And what it means is that if there are things in the constituency she's not doing right amongst the electoral college, she has to start putting things right. Else, the next time, Michael Kwe could finally defeat her. An interesting thing is that they are both young, so she's not the kind of person you will say, okay, you've contested or you've been in parliament a number of times, you are getting old, so it's okay, let the young people come. She's also very young, so it means that she will hope to be doing this for a number of years to come. Interestingly, they are both lawyers, and if you look at the family heritage, there's Apostle Kojo Safo, who is a huge figure, quite some history, and Okwe Jr.'s father, also a colossal figure in the NPP, Speaker of Parliament. So when you look at it, it was quite a very interesting race. And the results here for me, looking into the future, doesn't look so good for Adu Asafo, even though she won,
Just a quick comment on that. I think that we also have to admit that if it wasn't because of who Okwe was, Adu Asafo wouldn't have been given a contest. Okay. Which means that if you think about the people who also didn't get contests, could it be that because the person who was trying to go against them wasn't son of a speaker?
They didn't have...
You see, and this is the problem that NPP could face in 2020, where you may have certain MPs who are not popular. Because they are deputy ministers, or because they are protected, they don't get a contest. Because not everybody is the son of a speaker to say, let's allow a contest. So they may see their smoothness level in some of the constituencies that they protect people, where NDC may have a popular guy, and they will finish them. So, for me, it's not very... What Okwe's contest reveals is that it wasn't that Okwe was that popular. Maybe Adu Asafo had lost popularity. And maybe the other guys who have not been contested may also have lost popularity. But because it's an Okwe, they allow it. Okay, so it's not healthy for a party to stifle competition by saying, let's protect somebody. Because there are people who have even done research papers in some of the constituencies of leadership of parliament, where the president can have a 70% approval rating, the MP has a 25% approval rating, but those MPs were not contested. Okay. So if it's a swing seat, then the opposition will beat you. So I think that the NPP, some of these seats that they've not allowed contest for, it will come and bite them in 2020.
We have to go to the Upper East region, but so let
me just quickly finish with that. So when you look at Ablekuma North, for example, before we knew that Anekia Owusu Ifrie was not going to do well. And also, when I look at the emerging trends, I call something family heritage. But when you look at Ablekuma North, we had Sheila Bartels. Of course, maybe she's a good person in her own right, but she can't deny the fact that the father laid a good foundation for her. Of course, she said she's done a lot of things on her own, and I grant her that. But the father had paved the way for her, and I'm sure the father will call 1 or 2 people in the constituency and tell them that this is the thing to do, and they will do it. It counts. It's important. There's nothing wrong with that. So that is what I have to say about that. She won quite handsomely, 518 to the incumbents 315. That was a landslide. When you look at Botiano English, I think it's beginning to have the reputation of one of those constituencies which change their parliamentary, their MPs at every election. The last time we had the Edem guy, then now we have the Said, and then now it appears, I don't know who the NDC, I need to check to see who the NDC is presenting, but now it's going to be between Sylvester Tete, who failed many times in the Ningo Pampram constituency.
Okay, the NDC's candidate is Alexander Kwoko.
Okay, so certainly that's also a new guy, So it will be interesting to see. So no matter what, that constituency is going to have a new MP. So in the 3 elections, that the constituency will be seeing, each of those elections would have produced a totally new member of parliament. Okankwe North, very interesting place. Ken Kranchi, my mate in law school, I think he tried this before.
Yeah, in 2015.
And he lost. I'm not sure what the margin was, but I feel this time he's tried to close the margin. Fuseni Issa is one of the rising stars, quite good, calm, but very intelligent and knowledgeable. Interesting race. Fuseni won as an incumbent, but I think given how Ken Kranchi has been consistent and rising, if Fuseni doesn't put his house in order, Ken Kranchi next time may surprise him. Well, Ladale Kotopon, very little to say about that. We know it was coming.
Yeah.
And it's only disappointing that after losing the executive position, maybe he was thinking that once he holds on to the legislative position or the MP thing, it would have.
Business.
He has. Maybe he has.
Bernard is a house support.
Bernard is not a house signee.
Yeah, so let's go to Upper East region. Navrongo Central. Joseph Kofiada, 266. Tangoba Abayagi, 307.
Very close.
Timpane, Joseph Pemka was unopposed. Zebila John Kingsley Krugu, 280. Adongo Frank Fuseni, 323. So those are the figures we have from the Upper East region. Let me start with Duke on this. The aviation minister versus the Upper East regional minister in Navrongo.
It's not surprising that the regional minister won, because she is an activist. Professionally, that's what she's done in the region for many years before she got into the domain of politics. And watching her speak yesterday after the elections, this is someone who had charged the atmosphere with the way with just the sheer power of her words. This is someone who knows how to organize people, and that really worked for her against an incumbent who's been in and out of parliament. Kofi Adam at a point came to parliament through a by-election when John Achulliwo lost his life through a by-election. He's been in and out of parliament a couple of times, and his stock, if I may use that word, was falling in the eyes of the kingmakers and the power brokers in the constituency, to the point that just a few weeks to the election, he was, for want of a better word, reported to the president that he was not doing his work as he ought to do it. All these were pointing to the fact that he was, on the verge of losing his seat. Okay. And for an appointee who's done quite well, who left Italy to be brought back to the constituency, to really bring to bear her powers as an organizational person, it's not really surprising that she was able to beat
Bernard.
Well, for me, a lot of people we spoke to couldn't tell who was going to win, and the result shows that it was very close. For a two-man race, 307, 266 is probably 40-something, 50-something, so very close. Two ministers going against each other. This is what competition is about. It's good. I'm happy a woman has won. She sounds articulate. We wish her well. Kofi Adam, Minister for Aviation, he's been MP for 3 terms. There's a lot he's done. MP is not the only thing you can do for your people. So I think there's nothing wrong there. Let's move on with life. The only thing is that NDC has only 3 seats. MPP has 3 seats. So traditionally, MPP has not done well there. So they play their politics wrong, and then they will be wiped out, because the default position is NDC. So if the person you pick is not liked,
it's not good.
The other point is that if you look at Upper West, where you are going to next, the candidates in NPP did better than their president. So the people traditionally would vote for NDC, and then if they like the MPP candidate, or if the NDC candidate is annoying them, they'll vote for the MPP guy. So the choice of candidates for Upper East and Upper West for both parties is very crucial.
Okay.
Once you get it wrong, you're in trouble.
Salom, quickly on Upper East, so we can go to the
Well, I think the comments from our colleagues spot on.
Okay.
Joseph Kofiada, he's seen it all. I mean, he's three-time MP, minister for many portfolios, both in the Kufuor era and now. I wonder what really went wrong, but it appears the local issues will be one. Key amongst them being his accessibility, I think. This lady, Tangoba Abayage, was in Italy. She was brought back. If you are a regional minister or deputy, and you want to run for election in your, of course, in your region, it presents you, or you come. I mean, it presents you a lot of opportunities, especially within your party. The national election is a different matter, depending on the political makeup of that constituency or even region. So I think she's done a good job, but it also means that she was more accessible to the people. That is in a region. She could go there anytime. She could instruct people to do things there, etc. While Joseph Ada had to travel all the way from Accra. Indeed, at some point, I think there was the accusation or allegation that instead of driving to the constituency, he was flying in, whatever that meant, you know. So okay. It will be an interesting race to see in 2020.
In the northern region, I'm beginning with Yendi. Baba Osman Dani, 138. Omar Farouk Aliyu Mahama, 230. Abiba Tashani Mahama Zakaria, 210. Saboba Bentin Charles Binipom, 136. Abraham Jawol, 211. Kayil Barnabas, 16. Nanton Kamaldeen Abdullahi, 129. Mohammed Teferu, 205. Tolon Habib Idrisu, 338. Alhaji Wahab Suhini Wumbe, 164. Jagbo Baku, 10. Mohammed Zakaria, 20. And Hajia Amama Saibu, 2. Wolensi Thomas Donko Ogaja, 212. Haruna Abdullahi, 210. Bimbila, Pandai, and Zavlugu were all unopposed. Bernard, Northern Region.
We know Yendi was the biggest, a three-way race, very close. The winner won by 20 votes, and the person who was third at 138. So we are told this was a national level of campaigning they did in terms of the resources they pumped in. But I wonder where they get all the money from. You know, you have a Farouk, son of former Vice President, Abibata, Maslock Deputy CEO, and all these state agency guys who are running. Where are they getting all the resources from? You know, because they are pumping all kinds of things. And you ask yourself, is this really the way to build it? Because if you're running a Maslock or you're running a NYA, all these things, you have all your difficulties to deal with already. You're also running a campaign which needs at least 3 months of intensive campaign with a lot of money. You know, it's worrying, because if you look at the type of developments that happen in Yendi just in the primaries, you know, I mean, some of them have done so much that even if you don't do anything for 4 years, they've done enough for the people. You get me? Because you are building police station, you are water project, you know. So I don't know. And the other point I need to make about Yendi is that because of how close this was, if they don't manage their losing candidates well and somebody goes independent, NDC will win it, because it's happened before.
Salam.
Yes, interesting. Yendi was certainly the highlight. Abibata and Umar Farouk. Umar Farouk Aliyu Mahama. The Aliyu in there is so important. First, within what I call the family heritage, and she benefited from that as well. A number of other people have benefited from that. So 230, 210 for Habibata. Habibata, too, I hear, also comes from a very
MPP
family, so quite some heritage in there. But I was thinking generally that it will do the memory of Aliyu Mahama some good by making his son win and represent that constituency, since he was the first vice president of the country coming on the ticket of the NPP. So yes, though I wished the lady won, Aliyu Mahama winning, I think, was
I'll go through the numbers from the Upper West region and Western region altogether, and then we use that to wrap up. Laura Anthony Abeifakabo, 403. Joseph Donta, 32. Nandom unopposed. Ambrose Derry. Sisala West, Patrick Alhassan Adama, 145. John Bosco, 9. Salifu Naliwie Baluwie, 221. Sisala East, Abbas Redwan Dauda, 195. Isahaku Amidu Chiana, 250. Wa East, Bayon Godfrey Tangu, 182. Adam Badun Nasiruddin, 16. Salifu Yakub, 212. Adams Yakubu Adama, 140. Quickly in the Western region, Efia constituency, Ajua Kwejiriba, 105. Joseph Kujo, 312. Secondi was unopposed, Andrew Ijapa Mesa. Mpoho, Alex Kofi Ejekum 100, John Kumah Abam 192, Takrade Kwabna Ochredako Mensa 343, Janet Edna Nyame 197, Ahanta West Kwesi Baini 249, Ebenezer Kojokum 472. The rest were unopposed. There's also Evaluate and some other constituency, but quickly on these two regions as we wrap up. Duke, go first.
Western region, well, we were not, they were Western North. The contest between Alfred Obin Boateng and Kingsley Abuwajije Dubibini and Anyaso. This is the gentleman who was asked out of Bost against a regional minister for Western North, and for him to have beaten him in that constituency, I'm really asking, could it be the influence of money that has really run throughout this election? It's an issue that really needs to be discussed.
Okay.
In that regard, that's what I'll say about the Western region, the Western North, I should say.
So just a few big names. Atupanfort Sama is gone. Is Guy Joe Mensah, Kwesi Mintim gone. Alex Ejeku Mpoho gone. Patrick Bojako. These are not such big names apart from maybe the top two. So look, I think Western region, there's no real surprise there.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Western region doesn't have any surprise there.
Selim, anything stand out for you?
The interesting, not just a standout, but interesting for Upper West, because when you look at the Sisala West, for example, where Adama won, you know,
he lost.
Sorry, Adama lost. I think Adama and the DC were on one side against the party executives. If you recall, some of the party executives had gone to lock out the DC's office because they said he was not performing a number of things. DC got them locked up for some time. The MP appeared to be on the DCE side, so the constituency executives got angry and said they would show the MP, and that has reflected. When you look at the Sisala East, for example, a similar issue happened, and indeed these two constituencies are like friends, you know, or brothers. They were split into two, and that generally is Liman's area. A similar thing played out in Sisala East, and then the deputy minister now won. The one who won in the Sisala West, indeed, is just a normal teacher who was DC for 6 months in the Kufuor era. So, given all those internal issues, you know, it shows how powerful the party executive can be. They really want to go against you.
All right, we are wrapping up, gentlemen. I'll give you 30 seconds if you have a parting comment.
Well, look, we need to fix our democracy from the bottom. We need to reduce the influence of money. We need to expand the electoral college so that the real will of the people gets chosen, not a group of delegates who collect television sets and whatever to vote for people and then say we are doing a democracy. So we can do much better than we are doing now.
There's a tendency that there will be some inertia towards the doing of government business in Parliament for the last 6 months of this administration, because most of the people who really have to get the work done have lost out. The administration needs to find a way around that.
Well, interesting that a lot of young people have won. It says maybe a few things, that a lot of the executives and what's the name, delegates were young people. The young people gravitated towards the candidates because, one, they saw their future in them. Two, they also understood the issues. So once you understand the issue, you're able to articulate it better and the people can follow you. So that's very interesting. Any party that does not focus on a message for the youth will suffer in 2020. That is what this tells me.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Selom Adonu, Duke Menso Poku, and Bernard Avle. My name is Abena Nyamekye Ampadu. Thank you for staying with us here on your election center. We have more for you on Citi FM and Citi TV and CitiNewsroom.com. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.